What's up, y'all? It's your girl saying we are back for the final part 3 of Jubilees. Do women really have it harder? Male feminists versus anti-feminists. Let's get back into it.
I haven't always understood consent in intimate relationships.
Ooh, that's a good one. Whoa, yo. The whole feminist side walked forward and one guy. Oh, no, it looks like it's two guys now. Two guys from the other side walked forward. That's interesting.
One of the problems is consent is not always clearly communicated, and I think that's one of the things that has kind of been weaponized against men, and whether the woman wasn't excited about it, or she didn't like the guy, or she was drunk, or all these things that they can use to remove their consent and their responsibility in that. It would ruin the romantic image of that guy if he asked to kiss you, or if he asked to have sex with you at every single point.
Yeah. My experience with it has been a little bit different. As a black kid, I was taught that if you engage in a romance with a white woman, it's a possibility that she might falsely accuse you of something.
Yeah.
So I've always been, I guess you could say hyper consensual. Right. Mm-hmm. What that has done for me is it has revealed the bullshittery that is all these like backdoor cuts that men act like women take to accuse them of things. It's super possible to never engage romantically with a woman in a way that she doesn't want. It's not even hard.
Right. There's enthusiastic consent. You shouldn't want to feel like you're talking somebody in.
What does this say? Enthusiastic consent means looking for the presence of a yes rather than the absence of a no. What?
Or something, or they are okay with it.
Right.
You have sexual encounters with people that want to have the sexual encounters, that are excited about it, and that's something that I do think gets lost. Consent. One more thing, really quick. I know young men that definitely didn't want to have sex as much as they were, and they were men, but they feel like they had to. They don't, and it's these things. It's informing young people. Even though you don't want them to have sex at a young age, you have to inform them of it because they'll do it wrong if you don't.
It's baked into our culture from the music that we listen to. It's in porn. It's a dominating culture. When you go into a relationship, these are the things that you see, so you try to enact on that. Consent doesn't make you any less of a man. Consent is really creating the safety for the other person to mutually just be down for it.
Honestly, I didn't really hear anything that I disagreed with over here. It's just the only thing in this conversation that I worry about is lack of accountability. Because a lot of times, women or man, doesn't matter what your sex is, if you're engaging in sexual activity, you can pretty much signal that it's consensual, and it can get confusing. But then if a woman or if a man doesn't verbalize it and then they go back, they confuse consent with regret. And I've seen that a lot in court cases or just throughout our culture.
But that's where the coercion thing comes, right? And the context around, the context surrounding, if they were to say no, would they have been safe? Would there have been repercussions?
But
are you putting them in a position where
or is that on the woman? Because if they agree,
it depends on the situation.
Unless they were raped.
The Harvey Weinstein thing, if any of those women say no, their careers are ruined.
Right.
They're in danger because they're in a,
that is totally understandable.
It's the context. I don't think that false accusations, especially for sexual assault, are anywhere near as common as people want to make them out to be. And I think the much bigger problem in day-to-day life is the consent issue, not the false accusation.
That's undermining it, though, because you guys haven't gone through it. Saying that is okay is not.
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that in terms of what's a bigger issue that we need to worry about.
I think there are some nuanced issues that you have to pick a side, and I'm picking women not getting raped over men not getting falsely accused.
But that isn't.
I don't think that you have to pick a side.
I'm picking women not getting ARPed over men not getting falsely accused. It's you shouldn't have to pick a side. That's the whole point. Okay. This is very interesting. Because when it comes to consent, when the guy in the blue shirt right here with the little cut or whatever, the blue button up, he did bring up a kind of a good point. How many stories have we heard where it doesn't matter if it's the guy or the girl, you could be in the middle of doing something and just be this ain't really going how I want it to go, and one party wants to stop, and the other party's kind of just well, what's going on here? You're regretting what you're doing, but now it's getting into this weird world of I don't consent anymore, you gotta stop. And then like the other person, I've seen a story where like this guy stopped midway through because he just wasn't feeling it anymore, and the woman straight up just started calling him names and all this other stuff, and then she was just like, "I'm gonna tell everybody you ARPed me," because I mean he was already in her, but he just decided to stop. It puts you in a weird position. This is kind of a crazy man. Ugh.
They're mutually exclusive, and it's a shame that we live in a world that's so black and white that you can't balance the interest of those who are victims, true victims, and also those who are falsely accused. One false allegation of rape, sexual assault, discredits a lot of other real ones in people's eyes. It ruins the lives of people who are true victims of getting their cases heard in a fair and positive light.
I think what we're all circling around is that what we need in our society is comprehensive sexual education.
Yeah.
And I think the topic of
and better morals and values and yada yada yada, God pill.
consent needs to be just as important as the topic of protection.
You probably would if men got raped more.
Male.
He said it probably would if men got ARPed more. Men actually get ARPed quite a lot. And it's one of those things where a lot of people don't take their stories seriously because they're men, and that's sad. That's sad.
Male feminists are in it to get laid.
Walk forward.
I don't like women sexually, so this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
I'm glad they was finally honest about it. That's why I started laughing, because it's like, yeah, you know you are. You see, even two from their side was just like, nah, I've been sitting over here fighting it, but yeah, I am.
I think that if you are a straight male, the way you view women subconsciously is always going to have something to do with sex.
Right.
On just a fundamental level, just in nature. Now, that might not be the whole premise, but I do think that it has something to do with it.
Yeah, I think like, again, the problem with these statements is like they're general. I think there are men out there that are predatory and are posing as feminists to get into the pants of women.
And even on a more like micro level, like, so I was literally just watching a recent Jubilee video, and it was one about a man. He was a self-proclaimed pickup artist, and this is almost a direct quote of what he says. He goes, "Oh hell yeah, I fuck with feminism."
You know, I like to think I'm a feminist. I fuck with feminism.
And I think it's kind of emblematic of like, there are men that don't understand the full gravity of how people who are real feminists feel about the situation. And they kind of see it as like this, like, oh, this cool hot social issue. And if I talk about it, it puts me in the group of the good people. And I don't think it's always heinous. While there are people that are doing that, some of it's just like such blatant ignorance that they lack the understanding.
Yeah, I think even the posing of the question is indicative of the truth of the matter, that I think a lot of the time it is that, because if you align yourself with a lot of the more traditionally toxic masculine traits and you're not viewed as on team woman, then you're not going to be in line with a lot of Western women in today's society.
I have a few like friends that go to these parties and they're like, oh yeah, fuck Andrew Tate. They all watch them, but they'll be like, oh fuck Andrew Tate, just so they can get laid, because they know that's how, you know, a woman will feel like, oh wow, they're listening to me, or oh wow, they agree with me, and feel a little more connected.
I really want the women watching this to like really pay attention to this, because I've said this before in older videos. I'm like, a lot of guys that ride this way be like, oh yeah, I don't like this or this. Feminism, I ain't pro-feminism. They are only saying that to get in your pants. And what do we have? A guy right here that's just like, yeah, a bunch of my friends that just say that to get with the girl. It's coming out of the men's mouth. I've been said this in past videos. I've been told y'all already.
And I think for me, as someone who believes genuinely in the fact that men and women are equal, but I don't go around parading myself as a feminist, because the only thing that I could think that justifies being a third-wave feminist, being a feminist today, is you must just want to get laid, because there's no reason to believe in all of these crazy things that go after your identity as a man, that seek to strip you of your masculinity, that perpetuate these terrible ideas that men are bad and evil and all of these things, that you can't be a provider, you can't be a protector, all these things. I think that has to be the reason. Like, you have
some
to
of
want
us
to
don't
get laid.
identify with, me personally, I don't identify with masculinity. I might, show masculinity, but like I don't think feminism is taking anything away from me.
But I think that's a societal problem, though. The fact that masculinity itself has become a dirty word is a problem.
I didn't say it's a dirty word. I'm saying it doesn't matter.
Well, not you in general.
Wait.
Even
because when you say it, nothing in my heart feels anything. It's just a word. It's just a. Right. I don't think anything I do is because I'm a man. I think that it's because of who I am.
Yeah. Well,
Let's hear it.
I think to your point, asking like, why would any man be a feminist? So I just think that we don't all view feminism the way you do. Similar to the way the Black Lives Matter movement has been moved and changed and developed in terms of the way that people identify it.
It's the third time Rayston got brought up by this guy. Like, sir, we're talking about feminism and anti-feminism. Stay on top.
Things that you speak about when you talk about third wave feminism is not what I mean when I say that I am a male feminist. And so, yeah, no, if you can't understand that me wanting to make the world a more equal and level playing field for my two daughters, for my wife, for my mother and my mother-in-law, and standing in front of people who want to take liberties away from them, that's the reason why I am a male feminist.
What liberties are they taking away from us? What's not equal? I can go out and do the same crap a guy can, honestly. I can go get a job, I can move up in the workforce, I can do all that.
It's a perpetuation of oppression that I'm trying to dismantle.
And for me, I think we're taking the
He said a thing of oppression? Sir, I'm not oppressed. Women aren't oppressed today in 2023. What are we oppressed from?
this from a very heteronormative perspective, right? All my friends aren't straight women. So I'm not gonna look at my non-binary or LGBTQ friends and be like, oh, just because I can't have sex with you, I'm not gonna fight for your rights. There is no personal gain for just saying that we should be there.
Two things can be true. I agree with you. And I think a lot of us agree on what we're talking about. It's just these labels are in the way of getting us to that.
It's also a blanket statement.
One thing to build on top of, too, is to an extent, leading men to want to take advantage of women is the very pressure put on by other men. Yeah. That if you're not sleeping around, if you're not getting laid, you aren't. And that doesn't come from women, at least from my experience.
That's patriarchal culture.
If men were a little bit like so, I'll say this now. I didn't lose my virginity till I was 22. Now I'm fine with that. If you asked me at 21 how I felt about that, I would change the subject as quickly as I possibly could because I was ashamed.
They make movies about it.
Right.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, I was ashamed of it, but that's part of the patriarchy.
Yeah, okay, hold on, sir. That comes down to the culture of our society. That's what that comes down to. If we were more of a culture that valued waiting to have sex until marriage, if that was the norm, because there's actually other cultures in the world that function like that, where like here in America that may be a thing, but there's other countries, mostly Eastern countries, if anything, where they just be like, oh, you haven't had sex yet? It's like that's normal, because that's not your wife or husband or blah, blah, blah. There's a tribe, I saw, it was a Poor Man podcast. He spoke these facts he went on the peer-to-peer podcast, and he was speaking a lot of facts, and he clipped it on his channel and then put the actual statistics and stuff into the video. There's a tribe that lives in Minnesota, and I guess all the men there, the American men, know not to mess with those women, because as soon as you start dating and talking to them, that means you got to get married, because that's how it works in their culture where they are from outside of the United States. This is just a whole culture thing. Once that shifts, it's not going to. I think it's going to get worse from here. But if that was to shift, this wouldn't even be an issue right now.
This is going to be the last prompt.
No.
I want to hear everyone speak. I want everyone to get their voice in. Be mindful of folks that are trying to talk.
What is
Step
this, Julie?
forward if you agree with the prompt. I like living in a patriarchal society.
There goes that word again. There goes that word again. Do y'all know what it is? Because two of you couldn't really define it. My man, Bible man, stepped up. He was like, I got this.
I would say patriarchal society, again, I've mentioned the scriptural basis for this, but I think patriarchal society is the way that society functions best. Patriarchy is just a man-led society. So I think we've kind of flipped the term on its head to mean something that it doesn't mean, to say that a patriarchy is a society that oppresses women. That's not what a patriarchy is. So I think if you have a patriarchy operating properly, you have men that are responsible and taking care of their families, taking care of the women of society, and in turn the women have equal opportunities to pursue whatever career they want, to be a mom, to be a wife, and to do the things that they want to do as well.
That sounded great. That sounded wonderful.
So I'll go first. This is a little bit of a personal, emotional thing. At the beginning of September, I lost my brother to cancer.
That's sad.
And I took about 2 or 3 weeks off work. And then I really started feeling, the financial impact of it. And I have my girlfriend, people in my life telling me that they want to help me out financially. But I have this thing internally within me that feels like a leech. In some way, shape, or form, that is because of this thing this expectation that we put on men to be providers. It's really fucking hard. And I can't explain why. I would have liked to have a little bit more time than 3 weeks before I had to start worrying about fucking money again after my brother passed away. And I do feel like that kind of is a direct result of the patriarchy. And I know that it is myself, it's my personal feelings, but I think it stems from the society that I grew up in that I'm even feeling these things to begin with.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, to start, I want to say I'm really sorry for your loss, because I can't even imagine what it's like to lose a loved one. So
just to piggyback off what he's saying, from a woman's perspective, I lost my dad in 2017 or 2018. It was the day after my birthday. And essentially, he was gone, right? That means my mom was a wreck. I had to be the one to step up and be the head of the household. I had to. I personally, I don't like asking people for money and handouts, and that is from personal, how I was done in the past from certain people in my life, where you think they being nice and helping you and they really not, right? And I was like, never again. And then my dad passed, and I had to take up that mantle, right? But I'm a girl, so I didn't have an issue with it. I had my own business at the time, even though some crazy crap happened with that, literally the day he died. And but I had to hold everything down. I had to run the household. I had to make sure not only that we had food, I had to make sure my mom was eating. I had to plan his funeral and set it up. So I feel what this guy is saying. It's I wish I would have had more time. I wish I felt more comfortable taking things from people. But I don't think that's a patriarchal issue. Because like I said, I'm female. I feel the same way he feels when he lost his loved one. But I don't think that's what that is. I think that's how you grew up or things that happened in your life. He's trying to make it seem like because I'm the man, I have to provide. It's but how the guy that's in the Bible, the first guy that spoke, if everything is run correctly, you should have been able to not feel a certain way with accepting help from your girlfriend and anybody else that wanted to help you. I don't think it's a patriarchy thing, but that's just my point of view, going off of me losing a loved one, and I'm female. You know what I'm saying?
I want to thank you for sharing your story. It's really important for people to hear, but I don't think that it's accurate to blame a horrific situation on one aspect of society or the patriarchy or this without any solid basis.
So I think that's a fair response, and to clarify my statement just a little bit, that's more of a communal problem. I wish there was a little bit more of a stronger community sense within our country.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a patriarchal society is not one of support. It's one of merit. It's one of bootstraps. It's one of
It's
strength.
competition.
Yeah, it's competition.
You said that a merit-based society is somehow correlated with the patriarchy, and I don't see the correlation there, because if you look anywhere in nature, everything is merit-based. You know, lions in the safari, it's about strength. It's about, you know, competition. That's just how our world works. And my biggest flaw with feminism today, or any social movement really, is that some things are just inherent to nature. So to try to solve equal outcome and solve all of these problems, it's just naive, and it takes away from actually solving the issues that are in front of us, because it's a delusion.
There will always be winners and losers.
Yeah. I just wanted to go back and, you know, we've been asking, what does patriarchy mean, right? You know, I don't think it just means male-led. What I'm trying to dismantle is the institutions in our society reinforcing that males are superior. A lot of societal institutions and staples of our society are reinforcing that narrative that men alone have to take on that mantle of being the one to provide, being the one to lead the charge on fixing a problem, right? Where, like what Tucker was saying, we all experience emotions and, you know, react independently, and we look for community.
Yeah, so I think a direct combat towards the patriarchy is emotional intelligence that we haven't actually talked much about today. We keep going back to business, money, and all these different things, because those are things associated with manhood. But if we really want to shift the dynamic, it's about how do we own like the emotional parts of ourselves as men, and that is not a conversation that is had in society enough, nor is it supported. In a patriarchal society, it impacts men in a way where we feel like we can't let the armor down.
That's what the difference between you're saying like third wave feminism versus like first and second wave. I feel like now it's about superiority. When you're saying like you're mansplaining, or when you're like putting that men do this, or men, you know, take advantage and men do that, it makes it as we're your enemy, when in reality it should be more about like working as a team, right?
I have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
So you were describing that it's shifting to matriarchy, right?
Yeah, matriarchy. Just like more like being against, like when you're demonizing men for like their actions in general.
Yeah, so like when we're moving towards a socially matriarchal society, it's mansplaining and it's men being canceled. But when patriarchy is in place, we're dealing with issues of wealth, we're dealing with issues of healthcare, whether you consider it healthcare or not. We're dealing with issues of safety, we're dealing with issues of liberty, we're dealing with issues of choice. It seems that matriarchy is less, I guess, oppressively heavy, because all I have to deal with is you not liking what I have to say. Whereas in a patriarchy, I can't make as much money. That's worse.
Well, it's not just about disagreeing about whether or not it exists. And the fact of the matter is, even in a patriarchal society which doesn't exist, men and women can still go and make the same amount of money. If women majored in higher paying fields of study, they would make more money. When we talk about men's mental health, I separate it from patriarchy, because I think that to be expressive about what you're feeling and what you're going through, you have to be strong. And being strong, I associate that with being a man, being masculine. Maybe society would like to beat you up for that. Maybe that's why men are likelier to commit suicide. But that is still an example of strength.
I think that as we get further and further along the generations, we need to start preaching to young men the type of strength that you were talking about. Self-awareness, discipline, and honesty, emotional honesty. Not being tough and not like, you know, being able to go through a lot, but being aware when you're going through something, when you're struggling, being able to articulate that, right? And doing it to the right people at the right time. I think that is what strength is. And I think that that's a positive message that we could communicate to the next generation about masculinity.
There's actually a book out, my boyfriend read it over the summertime. It basically teaches you how to be a man, essentially. Not saying he wasn't before reading that. It's just a good book if you guys want to check it out. I don't remember the name now, but while I am editing, I will ask him and I will put it up on the screen if any of you are interested. Because everything this guy right here said, and then the guy in the orange shirt was like, I agree with you, we should do, all that's in that book, right? So I'm going to ask him for the name and I will put it up on the screen.
We ended on consensus.
Yes, that is a wrap on male feminists versus male anti-feminists. Nice job, y'all.
They say they hate men.
So that was, It says the next upcoming episode is female feminist versus female anti. Oh, that's gonna be like the Vice panel again. That's probably gonna be another headache. All right, that's all 3 parts. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do women really have it harder? Are you a feminist? Are you anti-feminist? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. If you are a subscriber, a lot of you, we're kind of on the same wavelength, so I kind of know what some of you are already going to say. But if you're not a subscriber and you randomly came across this, let me know what you think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss I drop a video. And until next time, you already know who it is. It's Sang.